a lot of times, right, the problems in that area in general, or basically in the world, in most countries, is that the short-term interest
Mhm.
of, you know, what power can give you in terms of wealth overcomes the long-term penalties that
Yeah.
you kind of see coming.
Yeah, their short-term interest and their short-term focus becomes so much their focus, and it
Yeah,
kind of
and
overwhelms the big picture.
yeah, and another thing is, you know how you're speaking about the big projects
Hmm.
being like the goal without
Hmm.
consideration for the actual needs
Hmm.
of the common man. A lot of that has to do with um, what international institutions judge to be a priority in terms of.
Yeah, so that I was thinking that too. That's another thing that frustrates me, that I don't know how to navigate, because a lot of why we lose our way is because a lot of our leaders are not, I'm sorry, I hate to say, even though Nigeria has a lot of smart people in it, a lot of those people are not the ones in power. They're just not.
Yeah, yeah,
So, and that's true because, it's because of, a lot of them come from the military, from independence, and then they were this, and then they were that, and then, or they 419, or they did a lot of fraud and made a lot of friends because they stole money. And so a lot of the ways in which everything was acquired is all like this and like this and like that. And so
yeah,
what happens is that it makes us vulnerable in the sense that like they end up serving the interests of, like whatever in the international community is telling them to do. So for
yeah,
example, if they're saying like, we have to be COVID compliant in this and this and this and this and this way, they will, and that's important to a point. They will do that and only, but they won't pay attention to like other stuff that's killing more of their people, like
mhm,
malaria and stuff like that. It's like, oh, and like there was this complaint about that some people were making about how like, look at all these years, look how many people, that 400,000 people a year that malaria kills, and they haven't figured out a vaccine for that. And it took them 1 year to figure out a vaccine for the COVID virus. Why? Because it affects all these Western countries and whatever. And of course that's important and that's everything. But there's diseases that's been killing like 500,000 people every single year in Africa, which is
yeah,
malaria, that no one's ever figured out a vaccine for. Within a few days of that, there was like this, when I just Googled that, there was already tags like, now that we've solved the COVID vaccine, people are now looking to solutions from that. I was like, well, that's cute. I kid you not. I kid you not. Now they're like, why? Because people are saying, well, what's the excuse for not having done it? Now people
yeah,
are pointing out to them that they didn't do it because it wasn't really their focus. And I'm not mad at the West for being that way. They have their focus and they have a right to their focus. It's fine. But it sucks if the leaders in these African countries are not good at focusing, at kind of focusing on what they need to, and always get pulled into stuff excessively. You have to be diplomatic about it, because these other countries in the West are bigger and more powerful than you. So
yeah.
you have to find a diplomatic way of being their friend without just being a sucker for everything. Do you see
That's
what I
true.
mean?
Yeah. There's actually
So they have to find a middle ground, a way to be like, okay, well, we could be like, oh, we totally respect you, we love you, you're great, wonderful, but not be a sucker for everything, that not let them dictate, not let them colonize them. Like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know what I mean? Have a diplomatic way of like being like nice and friendly, and but not like be taken over. Otherwise, it's like, why do we even have independence if we have brains and who are leading us who don't know what to do other than just do whatever the West tells them? Then it's like,
yeah.
why are you even there? It's stupid.
It's true. You're completely right, and I agree with
Yeah.
you 100%. Um, so, you know, going forward, how do you want to navigate this? And in terms of research, do you have any ideas where you would like want to start? And there's actually something before I forget. There's a program that's starting in Nigeria from one of these big uh, I think it's the African Development Bank, which
Hmm.
is lending a whole bunch of money to, I think, farmers,
Hmm.
so they can, like, it's a microfinance thing, and they're doing that for the first time. So that's kind of into the picture of what you were speaking about private enterprise lifting up. I don't know how that will work really, but I was looking into that for a bit. But anyway, to the larger point in this conversation, do you know where you want to start with this research, or you know?
I don't really need to do like all that research. I just need a
Okay.
platform. This is the second time I'm getting involved politically. So I was involved
Okay.
in a campaign in 2019 and a few years ago. but was more, I was like supporting a particular candidate. So I did a lot of research then and a lot of work on that campaign, like,
Okay.
posting on social media for him, on Facebook, on YouTube, doing a lot of just like, doing a lot of advocating for that candidacy. So that was kind of like my training and what was going on, unconsciously, right? Because I didn't know I would try to run myself. I was just
Mhm.
doing it to do it, and I was just enjoying and just getting involved in it on behalf of him. And that was, and oh, that was a huge disappointment. That just totally did not go. I was so pissed
Oh,
off when we
wow.
didn't win. But
Okay.
then we would have gotten slapped with COVID, and it would have been. I mean, his candidacy was really focused on, we're going to do this and this and this and this and that. And I don't know how all that would have played out. I don't know all that we're going to do this in a few years and that in a few years would have played out in light of COVID. I think that kind of like slowed things down a little bit. Plus,
Okay.
also, like, I don't know. I mean, people change. The candidate is like, I don't know, maybe he'll run again. He probably will, so I'll be quiet because I might be running. I might be running alongside him, so I'll shut up.
Okay.
No comment. No
So
comment. He tried.
yes, yes, it's always good to try.
Yeah, no comment.
So, so your platform is your main focus now.
Oh, that I need a
Like
platform.
when you mean platform, do you mean like exposure, or do you mean like your like things you want to
So
say?
platform typically just means like, what are your key points? What is
Yeah,
your
yeah,
sort of
that's what
like
I mean.
the if one could summarize you as a candidate in like 4 sentences, what would they say? What are you about?
Okay.
What is your angle? Because like most of the time, like candidates all have like an an angle, a sort of posturing that they're coming from, that they think is like, like, because in any kind of situation, any kind of political environment like that, there's several things missing. You're like, this is wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong.
Mm.
Like there's several things missing as far as like, there's several things that occur to you that is what needs to be fixed.
Yeah, yeah.
But what happens is that everyone kind of takes a niche. So like, so to some degree, not that they don't care about the other stuff, but they focus their rhetoric on certain things because they think this is going to be their message to the people. So they're focused their message to the people in a particular dimension. So because they think that's like, that has its pizzazz or just,
Okay.
or whatever, or
Oh, so do you think the platform that the last your friend or candidate
sure,
had,
my
think that
friend.
was a good one? Or
Yeah, he had a good platform. We're not the same person. I'm different from him in some ways. Um, but I think that what I was really excited about was just all the possibilities that he created, and his focus also, I think the most similar way to mine was the realization that, like, with his focus was like on with focusing on health, education, and just seeing the populace itself through the lenses of like, these are the people that you need to lift up. This place
yeah.
has immense potential buried in all these human beings lurking around here,
Mhm.
So like, so his focus was really angling towards that and really trying to lift that out and making realize that if you want the country to be rich, that's totally your best bet. And his focus was kind of like, past leaders haven't done that because they don't know how to do that, or they don't have enough faith in those they tend to be sort of really dismissive of them, like, like there's this whole thing with like doctor strikes right now, and you should listen to this like Minister of Labor and Employment guy. He's just like really dismissive of them. Like there's nobody like, if you're going to make, okay, so if you're going to make somebody the Minister of Labor, and everybody doesn't have to be a pro-labor person, because you could be a businessman who's focused on the bottom line, or you could be a this and this, but somebody who's in that role needs to be a pro-labor person, needs to be advocating for them. But instead, like, he treats them like, he just says like, there's resident doctors that haven't been paid, they're in their residency and they haven't been paid for like months and months and months. He just treats them
Yeah.
like, go on, sit down, go on, be quiet, go on, just kind of like, that's how a lot of and it's kind of like, if we have like leadership that behaves that way, we have no hope at all.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So was his angle more the privatization of um more things to lift them up, or was it more like state involvement in lifting up these communities? Like,
Oh, you mean my candidacy?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
he was
yeah. And
more
yours,
focused on,
generally.
okay, maybe that's why in some ways we differ, because he's kind of like more, he leans more kind of um focused on like government doing everything than I do. I think that government can do some things, but what you don't really want to be doing everything. It's not always that efficient. What you really
Mhm.
want to do is do some things, but then galvanize the people more, because like, and then they'll do more. Like this country got to where it was partly because of government providing certain programs and everything, but also partly because of people like Henry Ford, and partly because of certain like that was like, we're going to give every American a car. Like you almost want the people to do the government for you. In other
Mhm.
words, you almost want to teach the private sector to
Mhm.
think like social entrepreneurs more, and to
Okay.
act like social entrepreneurs more. That way, that lessens the work of the government anyway.
Okay, I
So that
see.
you, so that they're the ones who are like, so that the private entities are the ones who are like, we're going to do this. Every Nigerian is going to have like, so the government doesn't have to do all, it'll do some of it, but you
Mhm.
want the private sector to think that way more too, because they see the opportunity to, why do you think China is investing in Nigeria now and building roads, whatever? I mean, some of that is also because they want to like, if they invest in them, then they see like a consumer, they see like, if these people have this and this, maybe they'll like, maybe they have consumer base for their goods. So I think
Mhm.
that, some of it, for me, some of all of it, all the work of the government doing everything is not that efficient. And it's like, government can't be everywhere, can't it's even more helpful. It's to some extent, we're gonna do some of that, but we're gonna also want to partner up with with private enterprise, to have them act more like social and entrepreneurs in some ways, and have them be the ones that are like, everybody's gonna get a car. I'm just kidding, everybody gets a car. It's like,
No,
we
I
can't give
completely
them all
understand what you're
cars, but if you can say everybody gets a car, I'm totally pleased with that. See, like
saying.
that sort of thing, more getting that kind of energy going more and more in private sector, I think that helps a lot too. Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of what happens, so that we,
Yeah.
so that everybody's acting like a government of sort. Everybody's being a social entrepreneur to some extent. And that helps. I think that helps. So I lean more that way than actually officially having the government be really bulky and do everything. Um, I think that just gets cumbersome, and maybe we can't afford it. In other words, it's probably easier because like, there's so many smart people in Nigeria that are doing all the right things, but like not on a big enough scale. Like the whole hydroponic farming thing. Like I've seen farms in Lagos, farms in Abeokuta, where they have like these, just sort of vertical farming thing, just really
Mhm.
taking advantage of like not having enough land. That's a
Yeah.
really good idea. But in order for it to really make a difference, there needs to be so much more of it done on a
Mhm.
bigger scale. So I think that's a lot of what I choose. I like a lot of the stuff I'm seeing in the private sector. Like I really think that, these really smart people who wherever they learned their clever skills, Netherlands, UK, America, I don't know, wherever it is
Yeah.
they came from, they're really doing really good. There just needs to be more of it. And so kind of like in partnering up with them and infusing more energy into them, that interests me more than trying to do it from a government program altogether.